Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast. Fitz and Ryan Gilbert and Cole Carmody all gathered together for another K-State podcast. Because can you have enough? I don't think you can. And we try to fulfill your needs with all kinds of content. Hey, welcome to the show, boys. Don't tell anyone about how much I struggled to get this show started.
Third time's a charm, right?
I kept clicking the wrong stuff, and hopefully we're actually recording right now because it looked like it was trying to upload a finished recording at one point. StreamYard is not streaming as well. I got kicked out of my own podcast yesterday.
That was weird.
That was weird. I was just talking and then boop, I'm out. I know it was you guys. I know one of you booted me. It's cool. It's cool. So anyhow, we don't have a sponsor. So make sure you go see Ryan Gilbert wherever Ryan Gilbert's at. Ryan Gilbert is going to have a special friend in town. And if you see him out and about with, well, I'm going to say it, an attractive young lady, take a photo so that we know it's real. Okay. In the age of AI, he could have sent us a photo of him with an AI female. Right, Cole?
I have no idea what you're talking
That's
about.
possible, yeah. If you go to AI generated photos, you can most definitely crop yourself with, another person. But that's not what happened, is it?
No, apparently not. Apparently she's real and isn't filled with stuffing or air. So if you see him out and about, tell him he looks great. Help him out a little bit.
I always look great, though, right?
Well, I know. I mean, I don't know what you can say to help him because it's pretty bad, but try to give him a compliment. Try to, if you see him with the young lady, go up and say, sir, I just want to thank you again for rescuing my entire family from the top of a tree. After
or
that,
a fire, or a fire. I think the fire works a little bit better. He's been known to rescue people from a fire before.
Those fires are awful. And as we know, he can take the heat and keep going. So yeah, this podcast is sponsored by the young lady that's actually coming to town to see Ryan Gilbert. Good for her. I love you, buddy. Let's get going with the questions from Wildcats Station. And Gills is going to read. It's mostly football. You guys write the questions. We just answer it. We're like talking monkeys. You give us what music you want us to grind to. That sounded horrible. That didn't come out right at all. We'll just move on. Gilbert, read.
From Byers DVM, when did K-State fans become 1990 Nebraska fans, discontent with 9-win seasons?
That's a good question. And it really is generational because I would imagine Byers is maybe not my age, but he remembers before BS, before Snyder. I just said it on Sarim Petro's show before I started recording this. Folks are 7-2. I would just really stop and pause and think what your actual prediction was for incoming season. Not your prediction like, well, they could go 12-0. I said 10-2, and I thought I was being optimistic. A lot of people said 9-3. If they lose these next two home games, or I'll give you this, even if they lose one of these games, it maybe falls short. It certainly will fall short of my expectations, but we tend to adjust expectations as we go, which is kind of fine, but also don't overreact when your perception of reality didn't turn out to be that way. And I think it's a good team. Right now, it's not a great team. I think it has potential to be great. It's not getting there. It's not there. That was a setback, but you're going to lose some. It just happens in this league. People want me to ask Chris Kleiman why he always loses a game every year that can't be explained. That happens to almost every coach. It happens all the time, unless you have that magical season. But almost every, if you're looking at a 10-2, 9-3 team, there's a good chance they lost a game that they really feel like they should have won. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon. It's like, man, since when has the sun been coming up? It's always been that way. It's that way every day. That is not uncommon. It seems bright today. No, same brightness. Your perceptions have changed.
Well, part of it too, guys, is Oklahoma and Texas are gone from the conference. And so I
Yes.
think that is kind of factoring into people's minds. But what we fail to realize is that Oklahoma sucks. Like, can we just call a spade a spade? Oklahoma sucks. Are they a name brand? Yes. But right now, this year, they suck. I don't know if you
And
guys.
they would have been the Big 12 too.
Yeah, they have the same record in the Big 12 because the teams they've lost to in the SEC, minus Tennessee, who I'm not even convinced is as good as their ranking is right now, they lost to Missouri, right, with a third-string quarterback who got cut from Notre Dame. I'm sorry, but I refuse to believe that if Oklahoma was in place of Arizona State or Utah, like, they would be any better, because they wouldn't be. And so, sure, I'll give you Texas. You know what? If Texas was on this schedule, would it make things different? Sure. But guess what? That same Texas team would be having to come to Manhattan because last year K-State played at Texas. And so, we can play what ifs all day long, but I don't think that a 10-2 season changes anything with the trajectory of this program. If this program finishes 10-2 and doesn't make the Big 12 championship, or if they finish 10-2 and make the Big 12 championship, the season should still be viewed the same. And I know people are going to get frustrated with that. Obviously, if you win it, it changes it 100%. But either way, a 10-win regular season would be the first time, I believe, since 2014 or 2012, since K-State's had a 10-win regular season. It's been a long time, and it would be a great season.
Agreed.
Biggest thing for me, man, is if K-State doesn't end up making the Big 12 championship, at least it's looking very likely that K-State is going to be playing meaningful games for the entirety of its regular season. Right now, if you lose one of these home games and Colorado doesn't lose one of its next two, then yeah, you are out of it. But it's still fun to be in contention, even if the odds maybe aren't that great, right? It's you're part of meaningful games for your entirety of your regular season. And then whatever postseason game you have, obviously, is very important. Maybe not for fans if it's a bowl game that's not the CFP, but within that program, those extra practice days they get, that means that the world to them.
Gilbert, do we have any questions about the college football playoff rankings at all?
Oh, did they come out again? I totally missed that.
Well, it comes out on Tuesday night, so we're recording it Tuesday afternoon. So, it comes out on Tuesday. So by the time you're listening to this, you'll know. I expect K-State to be ranked. That they're one of the only programs that's been ranked in every single college football playoff poll since its release, which is just remarkable under Chris Kleiman. So, again, like I struggle. I really struggle, quite honestly, guys, with people who are saying that this season has been a disappointment. You still have 3 games to go, and you get 2 of those games at home. I don't care who they play at home. K-State is going to be favored unless it's Georgia or Alabama. They're going to be favored at home. And so I think K-State has a legitimate chance to win the next 2 games. Really, that's all you can ask for. Yep. Give yourself a shot in the final week of the season. At that point, you throw all the chips on the table and go from there.
I think I'm going to say something that is a little bit odd, which isn't a surprise for me, but I think some of the reasons that fans feel less of an understanding about this team and who they are, they've had 1 home game since September. They're going to go 6 weeks with 1 home game. How is that even possible that the Big 12 scheduled that? 6 weeks with 1 home game. You last played Oklahoma State at home before Kansas, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get these 2 piled on at the end, and that's your 4 home games. 2 games in November, 1 game in September, 1 game in October. So I feel like fans are, because a vast majority of fans have just been watching on TV. Even if they go to every home game, they've been watching on TV, and there's now kind of a disconnection in terms of personal investment. It doesn't feel and you don't feel as involved because you haven't seen your team play except once since early in the season. It's been a weird year. It's a really awful schedule for K-State, and they're 7-2. As it turns out, they are playing almost every good team in this conference this season. Everyone. It's nuts. Tech would be the exception.
Yeah, on the road.
Yeah, those are on the road, but Arizona State and Cincinnati have turned out to be upper tier.
Right.
And so is West Virginia, who you played on the road. It's insanity. This has been an extremely tough schedule. And ironically, the one road game that isn't considered one of the top teams in the conference beat K-State. So it's just a wacky season. Absolutely nuts in how it's been laid out and played out. But the next 2 weeks will tell us what we need to know. Can you come home? Arizona State's good. They got a running back who's going to give K-State problems. Can you win? Can you win decisively? And then back it up with another win. If they get to 9-2 heading to Iowa State, where will people's feelings be? Particularly if Kansas can work the miracle and beat Colorado. I don't know if that's possible, but it's out there. So I just think it's been a strange season all together. But it has been a weird year. We've been on the road a lot. I've spent a lot of time with Ryan Gilbert. It's been great.
It's been a blast, man. Except for the things you do to me when I'm sleeping, but that's neither here nor there.
We already agreed we weren't going to talk about that.
Oh, is that what NDA I had to sign for you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Golly.
Next question. It's from TConman08. Have the fans and media given up on the secondary rebounding? It seems like that was a point of contention in the early weeks, and it's not really talked about anymore, but the secondary has still been extremely leaky.
I haven't given up on it. I've done a rarity that I hardly ever do this. I'm calling out a player. They got to get Jordan Riley off the field. They got to get Jack Fabris out there. Let him, if he's going to make a mistake, he's going to learn from it. I'm kind of at a loss here because they're not as good on the back end as the coaches thought they would be. I think we can agree on that. And they better be going down the stretch. But I don't think they're as bad as you think. Every team gives up a pass here and there, a deep ball there. You get beat. It happens. It's a one-on-one battle. The other players are good too. But it's the tackling that has really bothered me and just being clearly out of position. Like even the people at the game who really don't know football are looking at you like, why are you standing there watching the play happen over there as the receiver standing wide open? Those things bug the hell out of me. Great job in your zone coverage. You covered that piece of field really wonderfully, and they just set up in between, and you couldn't do anything. It drives me insane, but yeah, they should be better. I haven't given up on it. I've given up on asking about Dylan Edwards getting more play time. I'm not. Let's just be honest at this point. It is what it is. And I thought he got a lot of touches at Houston, and they didn't really happen. They didn't do much. So, okay. And I'll be critical of this. He's trying to find the edge too much. Just get up the field, man. Quit running horizontally and run vertically. But yeah, the secondary, still frustrated. Still think they can play much better. They better get there.
The secondary is one of the only spots where they don't rotate guys as much. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Defensive line, they rotate in and out and in and out. Linebacker, we've seen a lot of linebackers rotate in and out. We haven't seen as many guys in the secondary rotate in and out. And guys, I almost wonder if that's going to change this week, because if you are not perfect with your run fits against Arizona State, Cam Skattebo will make you pay. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Jack Fabris plays a little bit more against Arizona State, because are you that worried that the quarterback Levitt is going to beat you over the top? I don't think you are. I think the number one concern with Arizona State is stopping the run. And so you need a guy who's going to be physical enough to get in there and make a tackle. And so if they believe that that's Jordan Riley and he can't do it, then they will put somebody else in who will. And we're kind of at a point in the season, guys, where the guys who are going to play, they proved it this week. And so any of those guys who are maybe on the borderline, you heard Chris Kleiman say he got a chance to see some of the younger players. Well, if some of those younger players took a step up, we're going to find out on Saturday.
I agree. Look, Jack Fabris is going to come up and hit you. He might be misaligned sometime. He might make mistakes. Coach him. He'll get better. He's going to come up and hit you. If I see someone trying to tackle Cam Skattebo up around the shoulders, you deserve to look silly. No, I understand if you're, kind of come over and help out someone that's not getting them down and put a shoulder into them, folks. If you mess around with, I'm going to grab you by your shoulders, you're going to look silly. I'm kind of angry today.
You think he's going to play, by the way? Are we all in agreement that Skattebo is going to play this week? Kenny Dillingham, he said he was Kenny Dillingham said that he was practicing on Tuesday. So they still list him as questionable, but I mean, if he's practicing this earlier in the week, you would think that he'd be ready to go.
Yep.
Unless they're just playing chess, but I doubt. I think he's probably on track to play. Yeah. But no, I don't have much to add, guys. Just it's a valid question. I think it's gotten overlooked with some of the offensive play calling and just the offensive struggles overall. It hasn't just been the deep ball where K-State's gotten beat. It's some of those intermediate short passes where they're letting guys get open and get free and break yards after catch too. So it's as a whole, the secondary is not off the hook for these losses. I'm not saying that they're the number one part of this team to blame, but they can't be. Their struggles can't get overlooked. So it's a fair question.
Okay. You got the next question? I'm going to mute and turn my camera off, but I'll be listening. I'll be right back.
From KSU David 65, if Arizona State stacks the box, do we continue to run right at it, or have the coaches use the off week to come up with some adjustments to the obvious defensive schemes that have been effective in slowing our run game? Cole?
Well, I mean, I feel like whenever teams have tried to stack the box against K-State, they've just thrown the ball. And, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's math. If there are more guys around the line of scrimmage than you can block, then you have to throw the ball. And that's what worked at West Virginia. That's what worked when Colorado adjusted in the second half. And so, I mean, guys, they're not going to run the ball if they don't have the numbers. I mean, they're not.
No.
They're not going to run the ball successfully if they don't have – it's impossible. If there are 7 defenders, you have 6 blockers. You just can't rely on everybody being perfect. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I would expect that if Arizona stacks the box, which, guys, I'm not too sure they're going to do that. This defense at Arizona State has been susceptible to the big play. So I'm not too sure that they're going to stack the box against K-State, because we've seen that, you give Avery Johnson a week of rest, and he came out looking extremely healthy after that bye week. And, I mean, obviously torched West Virginia. So they had West Virginia after the bye. Who they had?
Yeah, that's Colorado. But, it stands up because
Colorado, yeah.
West Virginia stacked the box, and he just threw it all over the place.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they stack the box, that's my answer. I mean, will they try to run? Yeah. But are they going to rely on it if Arizona State stacks the box? No, they're not.
And I think the thing here is it's not just stacking the box. They've been stacking the middle of the box to take away that between the tackles, but mostly between the guards running game that particularly DJ Giddens thrives off of. They've just got to have more at the edge, just not sweeps, but off the tackle. I mean, Kansas runs a pretty simple play that I really appreciate, and Devin Neal cashes it in, where they just down block on everyone and they just decimate your defense and push them all to one side. And then Devin Neal's got a player to beat. I'll take DJ Giddens in that every time. But if they can take away the run and stop them, K-State will throw the ball. It was raining at Houston, and it wasn't good footing. It was a grass field that was getting chopped up. The player said the ball was extremely slick. So you could see Avery trying to wipe his hand before throwing it during a play, which is less than ideal. I mean, it was not ideal conditions, and it played in Houston's hand. K-State still should have had answers, but that's the truth. It's going to be a beautiful night on Saturday. If they want to stack the box, K-State will throw the ball. I think Avery will run it a little bit better than he has for the last few weeks. It's all out there. I think it's going to be back to what it should be, but we'll find out.
It's just the game circumstances in Houston made it so frustrating. The weather was terrible. You had a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter. Don't throw it. That's the one time where it's like, okay, just run it up the middle. If you don't get any yardage,
get out of here. Get out of the game.
Win. So expect a different approach here against Arizona State, and you can't expect it to have. I'm not expecting K-State's I'm not anticipating Avery Johnson to throw more than one pick in this game. There might be a play where Arizona State gets him, but with the good weather, crowd behind him, a bye week to hit the reset button, should be a different team on Saturday.
You mentioned that quarterback run real quick before we go to the next question. I think that's a great call, because one way to neutralize the box being stacked is by running the read option. And so when everybody caves down towards the middle, that defensive end inevitably crashes towards the running back. All it is, it's a simple read for Avery, and he's out the gate. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit more design quarterback run this week as well.
I totally agree.
From last question of the first half, it's from Pickles. Jace Brown is statistically ahead of where Tyler Lockett was through the same amount of time in their K-State careers. Lockett exploded his junior and senior year. Do you think Jace Brown has another step to take, or is he close to his peak now?
Oh, I think he's going to get better. Cole, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I think he'll get bigger and stronger and maybe faster, but his confidence is going to grow at some point. And it's going to get stronger, something you never really think about as a fan. His hand strength is going to get much better. And for a receiver, that's just, the best receivers have incredibly strong hands, and they can one-handed grab the ball out of the air. So I think he's going to get better. I hope K-State runs an offense in which he can thrive like they did for Tyler Lockett. And I don't think they're using Jace enough. I don't want to see one home run a game. I want to see them go for it a couple times. Keep that defense honest. Don't just use it as a compliment, like we've set you up with the run game, now we're going to go deep. Go deep. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. You still did it. You still said, we're going to do this. And maybe it'll back up the defense.
Jace Brown is listed at 6 foot. Tyler Lockett is listed at 5'10". I don't think Jace Brown is 6 foot. He's probably closer to the 5'10" that Tyler is listed. And you watch those guys, and I don't know.
Not 5'10".
No, he's not. Yeah, that's true. You watch those guys play, though, Fitz, and I feel like they have kind of the same game. I mean, yeah. Tyler Lockett was more of a slot receiver in the NFL, and Jace Brown's more of an outside receiver in college. But, the way that Jace Brown is able to get past the safeties and beat his man off the line and make contested catches, it's pretty exciting to watch. And you look at his stats so far this year: 33 catches, 604 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and it doesn't exactly jump off the page. But when you compare it to all the other receivers, it starts to make a little bit more sense, because Jace he's just more explosive than every other receiver. The next closest receiver has 340 yards, and that's Keegan Johnson, but he only has 6 less catches. And so I think it's Jace's ability to stretch the field and create those big plays. I think the next part of that is just the sheer volume. He's got the big play, so then the next step comes the catches. And so instead of getting 3 or 4 catches a game, he gets 7 or 8 catches a game. Guys, I don't see there's any reason why that doesn't happen right now, other than the fact that him and Avery Johnson are still trying to develop that same chemistry together. But I like this question, because I do think that Jace is another guy who has 2 more years of college left, who can take the next step and become a legitimate number 1 wide receiver.
Doesn't have the speed, but certainly I think he's got an ability to make some physical catches that Tyler wasn't able to do. So,
Yeah. Cole, you mentioned the chemistry with Avery Johnson. That's kind of the angle I would take here, is Jace Brown's catching passes from Colin Klein and Jake Waters, going to be a good receiver, right? So if Avery Johnson, who knows how long he's here? We don't have a crystal ball, but whoever, maybe if Jace Brown has 1 year after Avery Johnson leaves, that's going to have to be a high-level quarterback to complement one another. And so, obviously there's a lot of strengths with Jace Brown and stuff, but perhaps maybe the one thing that separated him on this roster is the chemistry that he's built with Avery Johnson, as those two guys know each other like the back of their hands.
Agreed. That's it for the first half of the Powercat podcast. We'll be back on the other side of this break with more of your questions from Wabash Station.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
Wow, that kind of clips off. I got to work on that. It just got back to the studio. Okay, that's fine. Even my ads aren't working right today, Gills. It's just off, man. Just off.
Good job.
It's the Powercat Podcast. We're sponsored by Gills' girlfriend. future fiance.
Oh my goodness.
Why are you telling people that I met a hooker in Houston?
That sounds like a country song. I met a hooker in Houston. Let's get going with questions of Wabash Station and not Gills' sex life. Nobody wants to know about that. Trust me, I know.
Non-existent anyway.
And let's get back to Ryan Gilbert.
From Kat and Colo, we are in the win out and hope for help mode to play in Arlington. Although we need both to happen, which is more likely to happen? We win 3 in a row, or we get help with someone beating Colorado.
3 in a row. I don't think anyone's beaten Colorado. I think they're the best team in the conference right now. They are getting better. And I think Colorado wins the Big 12 championship unless someone disrupts that. And I think could be Kansas. It really could be. But right now, K-State made its bed. Have fun in it. And you screwed up. And you know you screwed up. Just go win your games. I think they will at least win these 2 home games. And maybe the last game follows the same path. If they find out they're eliminated, they'll mail it in again, which still makes me mad they did that last year. I really feel like knowing they had no shot at the Big 12 title affected their performance against Iowa State. The snow and bad shoes might have done a lot, but I thought that was a factor too.
So here's where I'm at, guys, with this whole thing. In 2022, K-State needed help. And TCU played it was Texas Texas needed to lose because Texas had that head-to-head over K-State. TCU went into Texas and won that game. I don't think anybody expected them to win. I think TCU and BYU's comparisons were pretty similar this year. So I remember after that, because it was after the Baylor game, going into the post-game press conference, and Chris Kleiman specifically, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Don't tell me, Fitz. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. You want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. No team outside of BYU has won 5 games, has won 4 games in a row in the Big 12 this year. Colorado would need to win 5 to end the season. And I had a stat that I tweeted out on Sunday, and I think it's pretty relevant to this conversation. I said that, let me pull it up as I'm scrolling, about the Chiefs blocking a field goal to win the game. Here we go. K-State, there are 6 teams in the Big 12 who are 4-2 or better. K-State is one of them and has the other 5 teams on its schedule with only one of those games in Manhattan. Yep. Colorado has only 1 game against the other 5, and that was a home game in which they lost to K-State. And there was a bunch of people that brought up, oh, well, before the season, Colorado's schedule looked really tough.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's once the games start, how are the teams? And so it's one of those things that you can't control if you're a K-State fan, coach, or player, but it's there. And I say all of that to say, guys, I am not bought in on this Colorado team. Like, I saw them play against Texas Tech. I've seen them look good, but I have not seen them look great. And I just don't trust that they won't lay an egg these next 3 weeks. Is Oklahoma State going to beat them? Probably not. Oklahoma State is not a good football team right now. Can KU beat them? I think they definitely can. Can Utah beat them? I know Big B completely shut that down during the Big 12 Insiders. That is going to be a 10 a.m. local game. There is going to be zero home field advantage for Colorado in that game. I'm not saying that Colorado is going to lose, but I'm not putting it past them to lay a stinker either. I think that I could honestly see it coming down to K-State and Iowa State in Ames to go to the Big 12 championship game, because I just don't believe that Colorado is going to – I'm not bought in on them. I'm just not.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, the schedules are pretty shocking. But, yeah, this is reminding me a lot of that season. And, you go back to the TCU game, it was close, but in the second half, they kind of pushed K-State around a little bit, and they took out a couple quarterbacks, and it was ugly. Now BYU just had a blitzkrieg for about 5-6 minutes of the game, and that decided that game. But I can see it completely repeating that same format. K-State goes to Arlington, plays BYU, wins. BYU gets into the playoff and actually does something. While K-State will probably, whoever wins the Big 12 will in all likelihood lose their first game, because the second best team in the SEC is better than the top team in the conference this year. Period. End of story. Third, maybe not, but their top teams are better than the Big 12. There's no doubt about it. Now, you get down in the middle of the conference, give me a break. But for the most part, this is going to be a race decided by if K-State can repeat what they did in 2022. And I think they're capable of it, but they do need that one step that they can't have a part of, and that's getting Colorado to lose.
And Gilbert, before you chime in here, this is where I think people need to understand is you just want a shot, right? So that's all that you ask for. So people are looking at this from like, can K-State win out? I think the perspective that fans need to have is, can K-State get to Ames with a chance to go to Arlington? That's really the perception that you need to look at. It's not can K-State win out. It's can they get to Ames with a chance to go to Arlington? I think the answer to that question is yes.
Yeah, they are in that position right now.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado's not losing at home to Oak State or Utah. And so by all means, on the road at KU, that's going to be really the one game. And this could be a nice segue into the next question for just one moment. But I mean, K-State's got two at least respectable opponents at home. I know it's at home and you love the home environment. K-State, I think, is going to set up a great game at Iowa State and win those two games at home. But Iowa State on the road is going to be tough. And so it's kind of just basic math. The three games that K-State has are just objectively speaking much tougher than Colorado's. Like you said, Cole, the schedule is just not favorable for Kansas State. But, obviously if you're climbing in the players, just take it one game at a time and the cards will fall where they may, right?
Yep. I agree with you. I mean, I agree with everything you just said.
Oiler Cat 2. Have we ever had to root for KU this much before in football? It's hard to do, and I can't think of another time I have.
I've never been a factor.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember it. I mean, is that Colorado game next week for them?
Yeah, they have. That's their second to last game.
Let's say that game's at 11, and the Kansas State game's at 7. I wonder if anyone will go to that game.
Could you make the drive from Arrowhead Stadium to Bill Snyder Family Stadium?
It might be better the other way around, where you play 11 in Manhattan. We'd like that, and then play at night at Arrowhead.
I think that
go home and go to the game.
I think that's a 2:30 game. I'm pretty sure that was one of the only games that they came out with and scheduled.
Those jackwagons.
Yeah.
Those 6-day windows kill me. They absolutely kill me. I don't like the 6-day window. I hope they're federally blocked from now on. Let's just get rid of them. It's not fair to me, Tim Fitzgerald. But I do need a morning game on that date. Gills, you know why, don't you? Cincinnati game. I need a morning game.
Because I'm gone.
Yeah, Gills is gone. Gills is going to be in the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
The islands of his people.
Yes.
And I'm going to have to do all of his work and my work.
Well,
and I don't like to work. I'm
aware of that. But
that game is going to be at 7:00, by the way. And I'm not just saying that because of Gilbert, but I firmly believe that's going to be a night game because the drama that could set up if Fox plays their cards right. They have Colorado and KU at 2:30. If KU wins that game to then set up K-State and Cincinnati on Fox at 6:30 or wherever that next time window would be incredible television. And it's either can K-State control their own destiny or can they stay in the hunt? And I think that would make incredible television if they just put it right there on Fox. Either way, to answer Oiler Cat's question, I think that's really the only game that you have to root for KU. And I mean, BYU is not going to lose 3 games in a row. If they did, I would be shocked. Now, if they lose to KU, if KU can beat them on Saturday, then it starts to get a little interesting. But even so, after BYU plays KU, they play at Arizona State, which can they lose that game? If they lose to KU, they could. But then you're betting on Willie Fritz to go into Provo and win. That would be a tall ask. And what a collapse it would be for BYU if that were to happen. Don't think it's probable. Guys, the question that I want to ask you is If KU loses this game to BYU, is their psyche at all impacted? Because now they don't have anything to play for when Colorado comes to town. That would be your only concern, I think, if you're a K-State fan, and why you want KU to beat BYU.
But Colorado's, I mean, I don't want to like talk crap here, but they're a team that is easy to dislike, and it's easy for, even if you're not bowl eligible, if you have whatever, probably going to be easy for Lance Leipold's guys. Maybe if they're not playing for a single thing, to want to take down Shadir and Dion, man, like, so maybe it's not the end of the world, even if KU's not playing for anything. That's a Cole Carmody glass half full approach. You like that?
I know. I liked it. I didn't realize. So BYU ends the season with Houston and Provo.
Yes.
Last time I saw 2 Cougars square off was at the mall. But that's been a while.
I haven't seen a game this year that K-State's lost when they're not playing against a Cougar.
Oh, good point. Good point. Those Cougars. Well, Gilbert knows. It's difficult.
Trust me. They'll get you.
They'll get you.
Next question from Go Stay Kate. Will the 105 roster limit increase parity again in college football?
No, it'll have the opposite effect. Well, I don't know. I'm going to slow up. The problem when they had it the first time is Nebraska and Oklahoma just collect talent. This guy isn't going to play for us, but he could help that school. So let's get him. Let's tell him he's going to play for us. And they'd park him because you were hostage. You could hardly transfer back then. It was a nightmare to transfer. Now, this is why it's going to help them. It gives them a bigger field of candidates from which to choose to have their playing roster, and they don't care the other 20 go ahead and transfer. They'll bring in another 20 and sift through that. So it is advantage to the wealthy in terms of college football resources. But I don't think it'll have the same impact it did before. We're still going to have the transfer portal, and that has shuffled everything. It was a really interesting talk with Coach Klyman about the transfer portal.
When you muted and took your video off, are you doing drugs back there?
I was blowing my nose because my allergies are killing me.
Sure, I'll go with that.
I wish I'd done drugs like Claritin. But yeah, I mean, the NIL and the portal have changed the entire complexion of college football, and now you can turn around a program in 1 year. So I'm not a fan of the 105. I'm not. I don't understand the 105. We're entering an era of restricted resources because of the settlement. So add more scholarships, add more expensive, go for it. How does that make sense? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because a lot of times the things we think are going to happen when they change the rule that drastically aren't what actually happens.
Well, this isn't just a football thing. This is getting changed at the baseball, at least at the NCAA level for baseball.
Yeah, baseball needs that. I mean, but
yeah, the rosters
they're doing it right now.
Yeah. I think ultimately what this comes down to, guys, is each program has their core group of guys that they know are going to help them on a year in, year out basis. And everybody else kind of just is there. And so, unfortunately for K-State, they know who's going to help them next year. Chris Klyman can say we need to figure out who's going to be back and who's not going to be back. But guess what? All of those important key pieces that they are counting on, they know if they're coming back or not. Like, they already know. And so really what he says is, oh, we have to figure out, and they won't ever come out and say this, but they have to figure out those guys who are on the fringe, right? They have to figure out which guys on the fringe are coming back and which guys on the fringe are out, because that's when they can make the decision. Do you go after the big fish, or do you go after another fringe guy? And if that fringe guy leaves, then you just replace him with another guy who's going to step in and be on the fringe list once again. And so, that's why I think the scholarship limit and the roster limit it doesn't really have an effect on K-State, because they know who they want. They know who they're going to build their team around. And quite honestly, guys, they know that when they sign these kids, this kid's going to be a project. If he doesn't play in 2 years, he's probably going to leave. And you just have to either replace him with another freshman or a guy who can play for 1 year and then kind of supplement and serve as that buffer zone until the next guy's ready.
Yes.
Cole Carmody have eligibility left?
Actually, I do not have any eligibility left, unfortunately. So I thought they might use me as a long snapper in that game against Houston, but that didn't come to fruition. So no.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
That was not good.
Okay. Any more football before we get to the only segment that matters?
I'm footballed out.
All right. Bring it on. From Files, our last question. While it's obvious there is an abundance of individual talent on this squad, there seems to be issues with defensive rebounding and turnovers. I'm sure that this is an old-fashioned opinion, but I believe that unless a team is playing at a frenetic pace, the minutes need to be divvied up between 8 or 9 players. Do you believe that Coach Tang needs to find a core rotation that will help address the fundamental issues? And can it be done by the time conference play begins?
Yes, but I also think we're nowhere near that. We're 2 games in. We don't know what this team is going to be like. I know this. They're much more talented scorers. What you saw against Cleveland State, it's not going to be turnovers like that. I just think it was one of those days. I didn't think they played well, and they won by 15, and they were up by a lot more than that until the bench was cleared, and they haven't even had one of their key players. So it's an early. We're just in the first few pages of the book. We don't know the plot yet, and we'll see what this team looks like. This team's going to be better. How much better is the question? But yeah, he'll settle into something. But then again, he's got more dudes. So, I mean, if you're having problems at the 3, he can go down that bench and find someone to go in. He can shuffle that deck. I'm a little surprised he's not redshirting someone, but that must mean he's got plans and knows that he's going to need that depth on down the road. Why basketball doesn't have a play X number of games and still redshirt rule is beyond me, because it's disgusting they don't. Every sport should have it. If you're going to have it for football, you should have it for 1/3 of every other team schedule. That'd be about 10 games in basketball. That's a lot of games a kid could play and still redshirt, and that's valuable.
So speaking of red shirts, Gilbert, help me out with this. Moby's last name. I don't want to get it wrong.
Oh, that Moby. Okay.
Yes, not the other Moby. Moby, we figured this out. I mean, if you're talking about a redshirt situation, Fitz, like I think that would probably be the guy, but he used a redshirt up at his previous institution in junior college, which is actually what the Vanderbilt quarterback is suing the NCAA over right now. So I do wonder if, because we talk about giving everybody a waiver, if you've already redshirted at the JUCO level, I almost wonder if the NCAA won't decide that, okay, if you've redshirted at the JUCO level, you just get another year of eligibility if you're currently on a roster, which, again, you talk about a nightmare. Oh, my goodness, here we go again. But
give everyone 5 years.
It makes it a lot simpler, doesn't it?
Give everyone 5 years of eligibility. If they're good, they go. If they get injured, they still have another year. It's when you get to the second injury that maybe you have a hardship. And how many guys get hurt? Well, all of them are at K-State on the football team. Sorry, Taylor Portier and Asa Newsom. How many guys get hurt 2 seasons and are out?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen that often. Give everyone 5 years. Within that is your window to redshirt if you want to do so, your window to have an injury season if you need to, or you play 5 years. I don't care. Just it'll simplify. Quit making layers of confusion at the NCAA level. Here's what we're going to do. And the few people that get 2 injury seasons will evaluate it, and most likely they'll get that 6th season. End of story. Move on. But yes, go ahead, Cole. I'm sorry.
I agree with you. But I think that you look at this roster and they're so much more talented, like just talent wise. And that's not anything against the guys last year, but they just weren't as good of basketball players. I think if you line this group up 13 versus 13, this year's group has just more depth. I mean, that's obvious. And so, I mean, Max Jones would have been one of the best players on that team last year. I think he might be one of the best players on this team because I'm really high on his potential with this group. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see 8 guys play, because if one of those guys that you bring off the bench isn't performing well, you're going to try somebody else. It's like what we saw with Byfall. Like, hardly played at all in game 1, plays a lot in game 2. Well, guess what? Maybe Ugo plays a lot in game 3 because he had a better few days in practice. And I think you're going to see that. And I think that's healthy. I really do.
Yep.
Yeah. And with red shirts, Moby would kind of be the only guy that would have a chance. But with the dicey situation, like Cole, I don't know what's going to happen with that ruling with that quarterback. And so, but like Taj Manning, he's already redshirted, right? Like, so those, I mean, Buddy Rich, he's good enough to play, like straight up. He is just good enough to play. And so back to, I guess, the main point though, Kansas, like if you're just an average basketball team, what you have to do to try to win games is minimize an opponent's strength, right? With Kansas State here, they can set the tone game in and game out, and that might change game in and game out. Here against this team, we want to play small and exploit some weaknesses that their bigs have because they're not quick, and vice versa. Ugo and Gassan and Byfall, they may not play a lot in some games, and then in other games, you may not see a whole lot of David Castillo or CJ Jones, Doug McDaniel, right? It's just going to depend on game by game. So I don't think it's, I think it's comfortable probably to have a set rotation and a set way to play. You know what you're getting. I get all of that, but with such a deep, versatile roster, man, it works well. So I'd push back on the question, man. It works well if you can play differently game by game, and that also helps keep guys locked in. If you're with today's day and age of the portal, man, if you're not playing as much as you think you want or you deserve, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but you're not going to be overly happy with that. But if you're changing the way you play, okay, I can understand that. This game I may not get as many playing as minutes as I want, but the next game where the scouting report falls in my favor, I can be used more. So Jerome Tang has always said that he is not married to that starting lineup. And, last year was, I think Joel Colbert switched in there like halfway through the Big 12 play, and that stuck. And so it kind of went through like ebbs and flows throughout the season where it did change. But I mean, this year, man, they've just got such a top heavy roster as well as depth at the bottom too, to where, game by game by game by game, I truly, I could be wrong here, but I do not believe that this staff cares about, building just one way to win. They want to win in different ways, and we're going to see that this year.
Agreed. Let's be honest. There's guys that started basketball games for Kansas State last year who would not see the floor this year. That's just an easy way to understand how much more talent there is on this team, and explosiveness and shooting ability and ability to dribble and pass, which I'm a fan of. Man, that's it, right? Gilsey Wilsey.
That's all we got.
I'm shot. I apologize for the sniffling, the sneezing, and the yawning. I'm not bored by this topic. I am just hitting a wall with these sinuses. I'm going to take a nap. And when I lay down and put my head on the pillow, I'm going to think of Ryan Gilbert and his wedding.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.